this one's going to be no different. As for this critique and if the Witmer's critiques, I'm doing Wes Anderson's new movie Asteroid City, which I saw the other day with the family. We just went out there for a screening of it. Just going to give you kind of a quick kind of my overall kind of thinking of it. Without further ado, let's kind of get in on it. As how did I think of Asteroid City? So overall, and it's obviously it was Wes Anderson's movie, and if you haven't, it's very Wes Anderson. He's got a very particular style in terms of how he shoots his movies and everything. And because of that, you definitely could see how it was his. If you've seen a Wes Anderson movie or know Wes Anderson, you'd know what I'm talking about. He's got a very specific style in which he does his movies, and pretty much everyone you can kind of think of was in it. It had Scarlett Johansson, it had Willem Dafoe, Jason Schwartzman, Tom Hanks, Jeffrey Wright, Bryan Cranston's the narrator of it, Tilda Swinton, Matt Hawke from Stranger Things, and so much more on the cast. And overall, the overall kind of consensus that came out with the movie was it was a little not hard to follow, but it was kind of a lot that they were trying to say and kind of the movie. So overall, I'd say it was a good movie. And the synopsis that I would say is it pretty much, the movie kind of takes place as and it's a Wes Anderson, as in there's two kind of styles in terms of it was either in black and white, which you saw Bryan Cranston, which would narrate things here and there, and just what the play was, or how the playwright was doing this play and everything. And then when he went back to color, it was the actual kind of play itself. And outside of it, you kind of saw like them as actors, or them playing these characters in this play. But overall, it pretty much felt like it was trying to talk, since obviously the last couple of years was COVID and everything, it kind of tackled dealing with a shutdown, being locked down and everything, and almost what it feels like to kind of be the mindset of an actor as well, actresses in the industry as well, how they feel during a movie here and there, stuff like that. That's pretty much, without going too into it, and obviously there may be spoilers here and there that I may give, so obviously if you don't want those, then you probably won't want to continue listening or anything. But yeah, that's pretty much what the story was. But then the story of the play itself is how in this little town during a science fair that these kids have, and everyone has come in for, is this kind of science-y fair kind of thing that's been taking place. And while this is happening, a alien kind of comes down and takes a meteorite, or an asteroid, sorry, and it gets the whole kind of town in like a fury, which is what causes them to go into lockdown, because they have to and the government's way is trying to make sure like people don't realize that an alien or all this. So, and during this you kind of see how different people have reacted to it and everything. So overall, it's definitely one of those things where they're overall kind of talking about COVID or being locked down, how some people react during it, how they were during the lockdown may have been different while they're in it versus when they come out of it. Different people, but there may be like the kids in the movie, Jason Schwartzman's characters, little girls of the play in it, and how there may be people who are kind of oblivious and just still kind of living their life to not really what's going on to the outside. But then there's people who want to know what's going on. There's people who don't like that they're still being locked in and want to get out. And all that kind of plays into this movie as well. So overall, I definitely say it was definitely a good movie. I'd say I don't think it was one of Wes Anderson's best kind of movies that he's done. At times, I will say it was kind of not super hard to follow, but harder to follow because of how the movie was kind of presented. But it's definitely one I would also say is probably more on the lines of maybe multiple viewings, you'll get more kind of out of it. So if I have to give it like a rating, just a quick little rating of it, I'd say. So looking at other kind of people's reviews and everything, so where you look at IMDb where they gave it a 7.1 out of 10 stars, or a Rotten Tomatoes where it gave it a 74%, I'm probably around that same kind of thought process. Is I'd probably give it like probably 75. I think some of the knocks on it is definitely those facts that I mentioned before, and how at some points it was kind of harder to kind of follow what they're saying here and there, and how when you realize near the end, kind of not really a twist, but some parts of it, how the first act, how it went back to how something at the end kind of went back to the first act here and there. So it's definitely one of those things where you kind of have to keep an eye out of multiple things. And I think because of that, for some people, it may be a little too much, whatever, going to a movie. But for others, I think it was kind of a lot saying within a little, or there was a lot of messaging that they were going through with the message. Essentially is what I'm trying to say, is that there was a lot of underlying themes or story arcs that they were trying to get across with the movie. But I think they were trying with it was a little too hard with it. So that's kind of some of the areas where I think it may have been a little bit, it gets a little bit of a hit. In terms of performances and like the story as a whole, like I just mentioned, kind of harder to follow. It was kind of on the harder to follow kind of end than anything else. It definitely had its Wes Anderson-y kind of dry humor-y kind of humor to it, which I appreciate here and there with his movies and everything. So that's always, it was still prevalent throughout the movie, having comedy and everything. And I did enjoy how he separated everyone's kind of stories and made it up as their own, with how big of a cast they kind of had. Even though like some of the sets and stuff like that may have been very simple, they went pretty deep in terms of their background. Whether it was the kids during the science fair, kind of trying to figure out what the alien wanted, or trying to contact them, or this little kind of relationship between the two characters, or how Jason Schwartzman and Scarlett Johansson's characters were kind of got along during the time where they were locked down and everything. So it was very much that's one area I did like, is how they were able to kind of separate but still give each kind of character their own kind of story to it. But yeah, overall I think they had pretty great performances. I think Jason Schwartzman was pretty great in it. Tom Hanks in this played pretty much like the creepy old grandfather kind of thing, which for Tom Hanks was seen as very out of placey kind of in terms of movies he's played in the past, or if you're familiar with movies in the past that he's done and the characters he's done. It's definitely a different kind of thinking of them, but it wasn't like a turn off, but it was still a good kind of performance there. And Scarlett Johansson was great in it, obviously. She's a great actress. So overall, I think the performances were good, but I think the story just had too much, was saying too much one that could have maybe made it a little simpler, little. So that's just kind of my 2 cents of the movie. Obviously, it's my own opinion and all that. But having said all that, leave a comment below. What did you think if you saw Asteroid City or thinking about going to Asteroid City? What did you think of it? Did you think it was good or not? Was there specific parts of it that you found funny or not so much? Was it saying too much with not a lot of story around it? Or did you think, wow, that's one of Wes Anderson's best movies? Or do you think one of his worst movies? Where do you think it kind of ranks on that front, if you're a Wes Anderson fan as well? Leave a comment below, let me know on that front.